let's talk about dates. No, not those. Yeah, those. I mean, look how much fun they're having. Dates are great, right? Until they're not. Like, maybe he said, "Sup, bruh?" to your dad. Maybe she won't stay off her phone. Maybe he won't stop taking selfies. Maybe he said you remind him of someone special. His ex-girlfriend. Yeah, next. It can make you wish dates came with an escape button. But there's a way to make dating a better experience. We can have coffee without conflict. We can go to dinner without wanting to dash. We can save the date.
Hey, this is Risa. Back when my parents were dating, when they wanted to get to know more about each other, they actually just had to talk to one another. Now, if I want to learn anything about anyone, I just call my little sister, and within minutes, she'll get on their Instagram, their Twitter, their TikTok, their Snapchat, and I will know all I need to know about them. And all of us in this room have a friend like that. So we know that we can learn a ton about people by simply looking at their online posts. We'll probably learn their favorite food. At some point in time, we've all done this. Maybe you ordered some amazing nachos, you put it down, you take a pic, and you share it with the world. Or maybe a barista put in a little extra effort and did some foam art. Or maybe you had a 3-day Chick-fil-A week problem. I've done that. Or maybe you've discovered cotton candy grapes and knew that you had to alert your friends about it. But seriously, how are those even possible? Also, you'll find out what they're into. Basketball, lacrosse, volleyball. You might post pics of practices or games, but even if you don't, you know who will? Your mom or her friends. Obsessed with a particular rapper or Netflix show, your Snapchat will probably show it at some point, or your friend will tag you in a post about it. The truth is, if you want to know what somebody is into, you can usually find out with a quick search. Finally, we'll learn about their relationship status. Maybe you have 1,000,000 photos on your grid, maybe it's just 2, but you'll probably show up on someone else's grid, story, or feed. It's pretty easy to find out who you're hanging out with. Now listen, I'm not trying to creep you out, but I'm just saying, most of us have our business out there for people to see. And even if you aren't one of the ones talking about it, posting it, or putting it on Snapchat, we're pretty okay with our likes and dislikes being a public kind of thing. There's one exception though. Here's what I mean. Say I talked to one of you recently and you told me who you wanted to date, and right here, I said that name in front of everyone. That would be super uncomfortable. Because even if everything we like or dislike can go public, when it comes to who we like and who we want to date, that's usually something we don't exactly want to broadcast. The same is kind of true when it comes to those we're already dating. I mean, you probably wouldn't mind if people knew you were dating. In fact, your Instagram and story is probably full of pictures of the two of you together. But those are just pictures. When it comes to the relationship stuff, like your conversations, your inside jokes, there's a good chance the piece of your relationship, maybe even most of your relationship, you'd rather keep just between the two of you. I'm not saying that that's always a bad thing. I'm just saying that most of us want to keep most of our dating pretty low key. There are probably a lot of reasons why we keep the details of these relationships low key, but I want to talk about just a few. For starters, it might be that this is an area where you feel kind of uncomfortable. Maybe it's embarrassing to put yourself out there like that. Maybe you're talking to someone, but you're not sure how you feel yet. Maybe it's a new thing and you're not sure where the relationship is going yet. Maybe you can't put it out there that you're hanging out with somebody because you're not sure what you would say if somebody else asked you about it. Or this is an area where you tend to dislike input. Maybe when you first met this person, you wanted to debrief with everyone and get feedback. But now that you've been in the relationship for a while, you feel like you've got it covered. No more input needed. Which leads me to my third reason. We're afraid that the people closest to us might disapprove of our relationship. Maybe your crush doesn't have the best reputation, but when he's with you, he's different. He's not the same guy that people see at school or in group situations, and your friends won't understand that. So it's a lot easier to just keep the whole thing to yourself. And speaking of disapproval, another big reason we may keep our dating status to ourselves is the fourth reason. Last, we're afraid our parents might disapprove. In fact, for some of you, there's a 100% chance, no matter how great the girl or guy is, no matter how many things they do well, your parents will disapprove. And because your parents are never shy about critiquing your choices, if they knew who you were dating, you would never hear the end of it. So it's a lot easier and quieter to just keep it to yourself. Plus, your parents experienced dating a really, really long time ago, so it feels like they can't really understand what you're going through now. All of our pushback to letting people into this area of our lives makes sense, Because let's be honest, there are some really good reasons for not making every moment of your life, especially your dating life, public knowledge. At the same time, you're all mature people, you're smart people, and you can probably see how this nobody knows approach can backfire and lead to some either minor or major relationship disasters. We've been calling this series Save the Date. And the whole point has been to save our dating lives from things that could make them less great or less good for us. And this week, we're gonna keep talking about that through the wise words of a guy named Solomon. So today, we're taking another look at the book of Proverbs, which is a big collection of wise insights on just about every topic you can imagine. The main author of the Proverbs is a man named Solomon, an ancient king who led God's people. The Bible tells us that he was the wisest man who ever lived. So if this guy has something to say, I'm probably gonna listen. So Solomon says this: "For lack of guidance, a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisors." This is not everyday language. I'm assuming that the only advisors you know is your school guidance counselor or your academic advisor. But even though the language sounds different than what you hear in everyday life, the message is the same and still relevant to every human. Here's what Solomon is saying: if a nation doesn't have enough advisors giving them advice, it falls apart. And the same is true in the rest of our lives. If we only rely on ourselves for guidance and direction in different areas of our life, at some point, we're going to fall. So imagine if all the light went out in the room you're in right now. For most of us, it'd be very hard to see. So what we would do is we would pull out our phones and there'd be a flashlight on it. We'd turn on the flashlight and be able to see maybe just a few feet in front of us. But if everyone in the room turned on their flashlight, the entire room would be filled with light. Life is the same way. When we only use our perspective, things are limited. There's only so much we can see. We don't recognize the whole picture. And as a result, we can easily trip up and make mistakes. And the thing to remember is this: we don't get tripped up because we're trying to make mistakes. We don't make it a goal to stumble. It happens because we're relying solely on our own reasoning, our own perspective, and our own experience, because we've kept people in the dark. And that is exactly what Solomon is saying. And when we live a life and make decisions on our own, it's like we're using our own flashlight to navigate the way forward. We only have our own experience, our own intelligence, and our own understanding, but those things only go so far. In nearly every area of our lives, we make better decisions, we get less tripped up, and we have an easier time of doing things if we invite somebody else in to shine a light and help us see what we could not see before. That's especially true of our dating lives. If we rely only on what we think and what we see in a dating situation, we're going to miss the big picture. We won't see what's going on around us, which can lead us to some poor decisions and not so great judgment calls, and ultimately some regrets. But if we're willing to invite someone else in and share with them what's really going on and invite them in to let them shine a light in our dating part of our lives, we'll have a much clearer view of where we're going and what we're doing. So basically what I'm saying is, don't date in the dark. Once again, you're a smart person. You have a general handle on things. I'm not saying you're stupid. I'm just saying that there's no way you can know everything. No one can. It's hard to see a situation from every angle, and that includes your dating life. You only know what you know. So if I were to say another way, you only know what you've experienced yourself, and you've only experienced what's happened in your own life, in your own family, your childhood, and your school. And that's awesome, because all of those experiences make you who you are. But there are people around you who have experienced life and relationships in a very different way, and those people can be so helpful to you, whether you're dating now or planning a date in the future. Solomon knew this, and that's why he suggested having many advisors as a nation and as a person. It can save a lot of parts of your life from hurt, regret, and especially in your dating life. But how do you find many advisors in your life? That kind of sounds weird. Well, when it comes to your dating life, let's just pick one or two, and here are a few ideas to get you started. Think of someone who could be objective. We all have those friends who will always agree with our decisions, no matter who we decide to date. But we don't want someone that will just tell us what we want to hear. An advisor isn't one of those people. We need people who are willing to be honest with us, even when they think we might disagree, especially when we might disagree. We all need voices who will be real with us when necessary. Find someone older than you. Okay, let's just be honest about something. Being older doesn't make someone smarter. We all know that. But wisdom is different from just being smart. Wisdom comes from experience. Sure, you can get advice from people who have the same amount of wisdom as you, maybe 14, 15, 17 years worth, or you can have 20, 30, 40 years worth of wisdom because you asked someone older. And chances are one of those candidates is in this church or even in the room that you're in. Lastly, reach out. This is the biggest step. Even though we know what we might need, taking the action to make it happen is hard. It may sound scary, but I'd be willing to bet that any leader here would be more than happy to simply have a conversation with you. And they're not gonna put you on blast, tell your friends, or make you feel weird. And a conversation or two will help you identify if this is someone who could give you honest, objective feedback on what you're experiencing in your dating life and in life in general. The majority of us in this room who are not currently dating someone, I know you may be thinking, none of this applies to me. I'm not dating anyone and have zero possibility on the horizon. It is thirsty out here. But even if you're not dating someone, chances are you will one day, which means you can get a head start today by finding the kind of people you can count on to give you advice and wisdom for future relationships. You'll never regret having a lot of advisors, so start finding them now because you never know when you'll need them later. Living in the dark is never a good idea, but dating in the dark is particularly a bad idea because who you date and how you navigate those relationships will impact other areas as well. It sounds dramatic, but it's true. The quality of your high school years and probably several years after can be affected by how you handle your dating life now. So today, begin to think of someone who could possibly be a good candidate for advisor. Think of someone who can give you honest advice on everything, but especially dating. Reach out to them, let them listen to you, and then listen to what they have to say in return. Because dating is better when you don't do it in the dark.